Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're gonna be diving into Premiere Pro, and I'm gonna be showing you my full color grading workflow to take this shot from this to this, just like that. That's it. It's not too hard, it's not too crazy, and if you guys are looking to level up your color grading at all, this video is 100% gonna be for you. So without further ado, let's dive in to Premiere Pro and let's get started. All right, so here we are inside of Premiere Pro, and yeah, we are gonna just straight away, we've imported our little clip in here, and now we're just gonna go over to color, and that's it. We're cooking with gas. We're gonna change this right here to effects. We've got the lumetri scopes up. We're good to go. We're gonna make this just a little bit bigger. Look at that, full screen. We're cooking. All right, amazing stuff. Now, I wanna be honest with you guys, 9 times out of 10, I probably wouldn't be starting off my color grading like this because this was shot in D-Log from my Mavic 3 Classic at sunrise. I would honestly just be putting one of my cinematic LUTs on here, but of course today I'm not gonna be doing that at all. We're just gonna be going from start to finish completely manually, but if you guys don't wanna do that, you wanna speed up your editing workflow like crazy, and you wanna be getting the colors and the same kind of tones that I do in my shots, you can do so by using, first of all, you gotta go to the link in the description, and then you can use this code at checkout for a cheeky little discount. But like I said today, we're not gonna be using my LUTs, we're just gonna be editing 100% manually from scratch. So here we are. All right, so first things first, this is a beautiful shot here in Bali. This was a sunrise I went out and shot with some friends the other week. It's absolutely gorgeous, like just crazy light coming in, as you guys can see, Palm Tree Road, the lot. It's just got Bali written all over it. First things first, I actually don't come into the basic correction unless I think the white balance is a little off. But when it's shot in log like this, it is so flat, it's crazy. But as you can see with the lumetri scopes, we need to add some contrast. So my favorite way to add some contrast is by coming in to the tone curve here. We're gonna drop those shadows like crazy. We're also gonna make this just a little bigger, and we might make this a little smaller, just so we have complete control and as the tone curve can be as big as possible. And then we're gonna add a whole lot more back like this. And we're just gonna be playing with that until we get it right, just like this. All right, we're added already a lot of contrast back. Now we're gonna come in here, we're gonna drop the shadows like crazy. We're gonna increase the contrast like crazy. Now, as you can already see, if we go before, look at that little lumetri, it's so bunched up. After, and as you can see, this clip is already looking really nice. Very, very nice. I still think it's probably not as dark as we need it to be. It's probably still a little bright. So we might come back in here and drop that, drop the shadows once again in the tone curve. And then we're gonna kind of come back here, drop the shadows once again. And now we're really looking good. Honestly, I think this looks great already. Like just before and after, this is looking banging. I love this shot. This is class. Let's just, look at that. They are Bali greens, Bali light rays, palm trees, you name it. Boom, 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 tick, tick, tick. All right, but anyway, of course, we're not gonna be ending there whatsoever. But let me just say, like this shot, like this is what happens when you shoot with good light. The color grade is made so much easier. The edit is made so much easier. Everything, like you nail the light and the exposure in your shot, and I promise you, you'll have a way easier time editing. Everything's gonna look better. All the changes you make are gonna look better. LUTs look better. Everything just looks better when you nail the exposure, and the lighting is so, so important. But anyway, let's continue. First things first, we are probably gonna dial back these greens a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. They are a little, how you going? So we're just gonna dial them back a little bit, but we're also gonna drop the luminance of them to add just a little bit more contrast. We're absolutely loving the contrast today. So we're just gonna come in here and drop the luminance ever so slightly, just like that, and things are looking great. I think what this shot needs, probably more than anything, is some color grading, which we're gonna do into the color wheels and match. But something else that we're just gonna quickly do is we're gonna come into Luma versus Sat. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of light coming into the shot, which is gorgeous, obviously, but I really don't want this to be any certain color. I don't want it to be blue. I don't want it to be orange. I don't want it to be green. I don't want it to be purple, red, whatever. So what we're going to do is this little graph here. It's a little bit of a secret I use from time to time, right? We can put a point like this and then just completely kill it off. Now, that's more or less done nothing. But for example, if we didn't want any color up to the mid-tones of the shot, we could take all of it away. And this is a really good example. So obviously we don't want that. And we just want to be working with the whites and the really, really high highlights. Now, as I said, this is more or less done absolutely nothing, but it's also a little bit of a safety feature because if we do end up pushing our exposure a little bit too high, or if we're all of a sudden pushing colors into the highlights and they're going into the really bright areas that don't really make sense to have any color in them, then this is the way we're getting around that. So yeah, this is just a little bit of a safety catch, a little safety feature, if you will. And yeah, this is something I do to pretty much all of my shots. Okay, next up, we're gonna dive into the color wheels and match here. Now, this is probably gonna take a little bit of playing around with, to be honest. We're gonna start pushing some colors into some weird areas, see what certain kind of tones look good. To be honest with you, I think it might be a little controversial, just a little bit, but I honestly think blue into the highlights here it's gonna look very nice, like very, very nice. Maybe a little bit of orange and green into the shadows. What do we think? Before, after? Yeah, I like that. I think the highlights are definitely making the biggest difference by far here. If you have a look here, the highlights are a little warm, which is fine. It makes sense. But this it makes it just look a little bit more tropical, just a little bit more. All right, now nothing has really happened that's crazy just yet because, well, for a few reasons. But we're just gonna add a little vignette here and we're gonna come in here and then we're gonna see what that looks like. I think things are looking banging. We're also going to change this to 10-bit to give us a little bit more color depth. Obviously only works if you're shooting in 10-bit, but it just lets us see a little bit more of that range. Now, to be honest with you, I still think this shot is a little bit too bright, but we are going to increase the highlights here to kind of emphasize the light coming in. And I really always just leave Lumetri scopes up. And that is because I could see before the highlights are coming down. They're only sitting at 80. Now we're well into 85, some touching into 90, which is great. To be honest, we could probably go just a little higher and things are looking good. Now you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, Zach, this probably doesn't look as good as when you just left it with the basic and the tone curve. But believe me, we're going to add another Lumetri color effect and we're going to start again. Of course, this isn't starting again. We're just layering them on top of each other because like I said, I still think this is a bit too bright. So we're just going to drop the shadows here. We're going to come into the tone curve. We're going to drop the shadows here. We're going to increase the highlights here. A little bit more contrast, just like that. We don't want to go too crazy, nothing wild. And now we're looking at this and this. So now this kind of just reins things back in, makes things look a little bit nicer. And then what we're also going to do, it doesn't really matter what one we do it on, is we're going to dial back the greens here, the yellows here. So if we dial them way too far up, they just look sickly. We just want to drop them ever so slightly. And we're going to do the same thing in the luminance. I know this is really similar to the last one, but see, if you do this, you kind of get a fresh look. Oh, that looks horrible. You get a fresh kind of a fresh set of curves. You can push things way further. Things look just great in my opinion. And then of course, we're going to come in here. We're going to add another vignette just like that. Now things are looking very nice. If we come over to effect controls and we come to here with the Lumetri color, this is where we started. This was the first Lumetri. That is the second one. Things are just kind of, they're coming to fruition now. It looks great. Let's pop over back to Lumetri scopes. And then I just want to look and have a bit of a see what it looks like adding a little bit more contrast in here. We want to make sure we're not really touching any of the bottom here to make sure we're clipping. In the bottom left corner, it does look a little bit dark. So we might just raise those blacks a little bit and take a few of those little speckles off there. And yeah, I mean, we're starting to look really nice. What we might do is add, once again, another Lumetri color effect. This is getting a little bit deeper into the whole color grading workflow of things. But like I said, this is my color grading workflow. So I want to show you guys absolutely everything, because one thing that you can do on Lightroom very, very well is use masks, because nothing's moving, right? Obviously in video, it's a little different because things are moving, and especially on a drone shot like this, things are moving quite a lot. But I still think the middle zone is just too overexposed here. So what we're gonna do, that's why we've added another Lumetri color effect. We're gonna come in here and we're gonna drop the shadows within the middle of the mask. And to be honest with you, this is the thing that's gonna pull everything back together. It's gonna make the palm trees stand out in the back a little bit nicer here. It's gonna make these just look a little bit tastier, a little bit more contrasty, you name it, without affecting the edges of this shot. And pretty much just like that, we're looking good. Now, we're gonna come back to the first Lumetri color effect as things are starting to look just a little green. So we might just add a little bit of tint into the shot, and we might play around with the temperature as well. We could go that way. That actually looks really clean. I think too warm looks gross. I think this way probably looks a little cleaner. Now, the mask is still up. That's probably a little bit confusing, but we are on the first Lumetri color effect there. You can see that we're playing around here. And wow, this shot is looking gorgeous. If we just press X, which is going to just select the clip that we're over, so it's going to set the in and out point. And then I have personally changed my keyboard shortcuts to Command Control Z for render into out. So this way we're just going to get a really nice full playback of this shot as is. We're going to get an idea of if our mask worked well or not. Hopefully it did, because we never want to mask something and you can kind of tell when something's moving. So we're going to check now. And to be honest with you, I think this looks absolutely gorgeous. There's one last thing I want to do that I'm seeing very, very obvious at the moment. We're going to come, okay, perfect. We're already in the first one. We're going to come into curves. We're going to add another point here. Yeah, we can remove all of that. There's not that much color. And we're going to drop, because if you have a look in the back, there's a bit of this blue tint and blue shade. And we kind of want to remove all that kind of bluish. I know we already added blue into our highlights, which is great, but I just kind of want that tone. I don't want there to be any obvious blue. So especially like up here, I'm really trying to kill a majority of that off. And I don't want to kill that off too far, but that is kind of where it's being controlled from for sure. All right, so if we turn this one off, wow, goodness, that kind of looks dope. But this is looking great. This is so contrasty. It's popping the light, everything. It looks awesome. So what we're going to do here is we're going to turn all of these off. Wow. And look where we started. So this is our first layer. Things are looking great. This is our second layer. Things are a little bit more contrasty and punchy. And then everything, I told you, the masking in Premiere Pro, it's not great. It's not like Lightroom, but it's still very good. It's still very useful. That is where it all gets wrapped up together. And there we go. That is pretty much my full Lightroom editing workflow. Not Lightroom, not editing, Premiere Pro color grading workflow. Goodness me. Let's jump into scopes. Things are looking good. We've just got a few little pixels clipping. You can see in the bottom left corner here, which is obviously representing here. To me, this is fine. I'm really not worried about it. And we have nothing clipping on the top. I think this area in the top right corner is just perfectly exposed. I'm not going to play around with it. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous and I'm really happy with it. But anyway, guys, that is more or less going to wrap up my entire color grading workflow. Every single shot is going to be different. Let me just say that. Now, I probably could have got here about 80%, 90% of the way with my LUTs and then just added a few little other changes, a little vignette around the side, maybe the mask in the middle because this was shot pretty overexposed and we would have been good to go. But this is always really good to be able to come back and know that you can still color grade without LUTs because it's really helpful. But like I said, if you guys do want to speed up your workflow, and I use them every single clip that I shoot, go and check my LUTs out. You can check them down. You can check them out in the first link in the description down below. My cinematic LUTs, they are great. I use them for every shot. But yeah, I'm absolutely loving the way this looks. I think this is perfect. We dialed it in like crazy. And yeah, I know I already have a similar video on my channel about color grading in Premiere Pro, but like I said, every clip's different, every shot's different, and the workflow means the workflow is different. So anyway, that is going to wrap up today's video. If you have enjoyed, let me know down below. If you're new around here, a subscribe would mean the absolute world, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.